It's time for another video, and as always, we're going to start off with what I'm carrying today. The first knife that I'm going to show you is the Spyderco Sage 5. This has carbon fiber 3-inch blade. I did a video of this comparing it to the Para 3 compression lock, super smooth action, great little EDC type knife. Up next is going to be my T&K edition Strider ED, and this is just a good little fixed blade that you can use, carry, hide away, real lightweight, doesn't take up a lot of space. And last but not least is going to be my Strider LM nail, and you can see here it's in 3V. It's the Monkey Edge edition, new design, pretty cool little last ditch effort tool. That's it. Let's get to the point of the video. Let's go ahead and roll the introduction. Today I'm going to answer a question that I get asked quite a bit. It's, what traditional knife should I buy first? What should be my first traditional knife? And these are usually my recommendations here. And I have them lined up from the smallest to the largest, left to right. None of these knives are overly large. I would say the largest knife over here is, and I don't have the specs with me, but this is probably 3¼ inches long. And I would say this over here is about 3 inches long, pretty much exactly. These two knives here are the Model 15, GEC Model 15 knife. The two knives in the middle are the GEC 77 Barlow, and the knife on the right is the 74, GEC 74. Now, I know there's been some discussion here. I've mentioned these 15 knives before, and there was a little bit back and forth. I'm gonna call them boys knives again because I just feel as though the 15 pattern, the boys knife name moniker kind of hints at what I think this knife really excels at. This is a knife that is not too big, it's not too small. The pull on these is relatively easy. This one is a little bit more difficult than most. This is a Tom's Choice clip point peach seed Barlow, but they make 15 pattern knives in all kinds of different combinations. But here, this is the Blade Forms TC15 as well. But again, this is just to show you a different blade shape that this knife comes in. Again, the knife is not too large. The knife is not too small. The blade shape on this one allows you to really easily pinch open the knife, and the pull is relatively easy. And if you're not familiar with what the pull is, that is how easy or how hard is it to open and close this knife, either by using your hand, your nail, or by pulling it using your fingers. So the 15 pattern, I think, is a good beginner knife because it's not too large, it's not too small, and it's easy to open, or easier to open than most. Up next is the 77. This one happens to be a two blade, or yes, this one happens to be a two blade. Again, they've made these with spears, Warncliffe, sheep's foot, clip point, you name it. There are lots of different options here. This knife has a little bit more of a firm pull. It's a little bit larger, and I prefer this knife. This would be my go-to knife if you're not sensitive to a knife that's a little bit, you hear the difference in the opening and closing there. If you're not opposed to a knife that's going to be a little bit more difficult to open and close, because this one is not, it's not a nail breaker, but this one is going to be a little bit more difficult to open and close than your 15. And again, I open it and close them one after the other, so you can kind of hear the difference in the sound of the pull. So you hear how it kind of snaps open, and then you hear how that one kind of snaps open. Now I'll close this one. You hear how that one closed, and I'll close this one. You can hear this one closes with much more authority. This one, the pull is a little bit firmer. Not a nail breaker, not anything that's gonna tear your nails up. That would be another thing to consider. If you have soft nails, you might want something that has a little bit of a lighter pull, which again would be more along the lines of the GEC 15 on this side. This is also a 77 pattern barlow saw cut. This one is a clip blade. You can hear again, it's a little bit harder to open up. Not anything that's a nail breaker, but this is my idea of what a traditional knife should be. This size, this type of pull, just in general, I prefer this, this model knife. So you can hear again, much more authority on the close. Medium-sized knife, just a hair larger than this knife. And last but not least, this would be the GEC 74 pattern. This one happens to be a yellow rose edition, but they've made these in lots of different patterns and they've run them several different times. Again, this knife is still a little bit larger yet. This is probably getting on the larger side for somebody that wants to carry a traditional knife during the day. The average person, I mean, because some people, they do carry larger knives, but this would be on the larger end for me if I was gonna carry this along with all the other things that I carry on any given day. However, the 77s and the 74, I feel as though if you're the type of person that wants to cut fruit, if you're the type of person that is going to eat a sandwich and might want to cut your sandwich in half, I know lots of people, you know, you might have children and you need to open packages and things like that for them, cut up little things for them. I find the extra blade length of these to be pretty much perfect. It's not too big and it's not too small. This one, the pull is even a little bit harder. And again, that might be something that you don't want if you have thin nails. You can see there that long pull. That's why I don't like long pulls. That long pull kind of tears my nail up. I prefer these nail nicks. But the pull is a little bit firmer yet on this one. That means it's also a little bit harder to close as well, which is good because it won't close on your hand. Not that that's an inherent problem with traditionals, but it could be something that causes you problems depending on how you use the knife. So I'll let you hear how it closes. So you can hear it closes with a lot of authority, but again, this knife is just a good, what I would consider a medium size. If I was gonna carry this, keys, cell phone, all the other things you carry on a daily basis, and I had to have this in my pocket, this would be on the larger end of what I would wanna carry. So I will show you, and I'll try to show you using all the same blades so you can kind of see here how they line up. You can see, like I said, the 15 is the smallest of the group. It opens the easiest out of all the knives. I'm gonna turn them this way. It opens the easiest out of all the knives, and it's also the smallest of all the knives. The 15 pattern, I would have to say, is probably gonna be an easier to find knife. Not that you can't find 74s and 77s, but generally 15s have been run. They've been run to the point where a lot of people in the community complain about how many times the 15 pattern has been run. So there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of 15s of lots of different lots of different variations. So again, sheep's foot, clip point, on and on and on, different handle materials, barlows, non-barlows, beer scout knives, soda scout knives, on and on and on. The 77s, they've been run a fair amount. However, they usually command a little bit of a premium, so you can find them, but usually you're gonna pay for them. The 74s are a little bit larger yet. They're the largest of the three here, as you can see. They also have been run a number of different times. Not quite as many as these two knives here. Definitely not as much as the 15. However, they're not hard to come by, but they're a little bit more difficult to come by, and you usually can get a pretty good deal on them. But again, this one has the firmest pull out of all three. The pull to the half stop is not much more different than the 77, but from half stop to full open, it is a little bit more difficult. And the way people get around that, if that's a problem for you, you pinch the blade. Here, I'll show you. You pinch the blade like this, and you just open it. So that way you don't have to really worry about it being easy or more difficult to open. That's just a little trick. What else can I tell you about these knives? I really think that's about it. But like I said, a lot of people ask me, I want to get my first traditional. What traditional do you recommend? My recommendations would be the 15 if you're somebody who wants a knife that's on the smaller side and a knife that has an easier pull. This knife is also more available. The 77 is a step up in size. It's going to be a definite step up in price. This is probably going to be, if you want to buy a general 77 model, nothing special, this is probably going to be the most expensive to come across out of the three. If we're talking just apples to apples, just general production models, this is definitely going to be probably the most expensive, and it has a little bit more of a firm pull. It's a little bit larger. It's in between these two knives. But again, it's not something that I think is really going to take up a lot of your pocket space. And I just think that the size of the blade here, again, I have extra large hands. My hands are 4 inches across from here to here. And you can see this is just a good medium-sized knife that if I wanted to peel an apple, if I needed to cut open a package, if I needed to sharpen a pencil, whatever I needed to do, if I had a kid and I needed to cut the crust off of a sandwich, anything that you needed to do for EDC uses, this I think is about as good of a size as it gets. Then the next size up from that is the 74. And again, not that the 74 is bad. I think the 74 is a very good knife, but you're gonna have to look a little bit harder because these aren't quite as available because they haven't been run quite as many times. The price is going to be a little more reasonable on these knives because even though they are a little bit more rare to come across, they're not necessarily as sought after. So the price is definitely going to be a little bit cheaper than, say, if you were looking for a 77 or if you were looking for a 15 TC Barlow. Again, this knife is a little bit larger. Again, that blade shape, the length of the blade, I really just think lends itself to everyday carry for anything that you might come across. But those are my 3 suggestions if you were to be looking for a knife, would be 15 pattern, 77, and 74. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I appreciate your views, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.